with all this spin and all the actual lies coming out of the White House, it's hard to lose sight sometimes and not get caught up in the bullshit. But this is actually what the Supreme Court said in the 9-0 decision. On March 15, 2025, the United States removed Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia from the United States to El Salvador, where he is currently detained in the Center for Terrorism Confinement, CICOT. The United States acknowledges that Abrego Garcia was subject to a withholding order forbidding his removal to El Salvador, and that the removal to El Salvador was therefore illegal. The United States represents that the removal to El Salvador was the result of an administrative error. The United States alleges, however, that Abrego Garcia has been found to be a member of the gang MS-13, a designated foreign terrorist organization, and that his return to the United States would pose a threat to the public. Abrego Garcia responds that he is not a member of MS-13 and that he has lived safely in the United States with his family for a decade and has never been charged with a crime. On Friday, April 4th, the United States District Court for the District of Maryland entered an order directing the government to facilitate and effectuate the return of Abrego Garcia to the United States by no later than midnight on Monday, April 7th. On the morning of April 7th, the United States filed this application to vacate the district court's order. The Chief Justice entered an administrative stay and subsequently referred the application to the court. The application is granted in part and denied in part, subject to the direction of this order. Due to the administrative stay issued by the Chief Justice, the deadline imposed is now passed. To that extent, the government's emergency application is effectively granted, in part because the deadline in the challenged order is no longer effective. The rest of the district court's order remains in effect, but requires clarification on remand. So all they're saying is that the district court has to say something besides effectuate. It has to actually talk about how they're going to get him back. Statement of Justice Sotomayor, with whom Justice Kagan and Justice Jackson joined in respect to the court's disposition. The United States government arrested Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia in Maryland and flew him to a terrorist confinement center in El Salvador, where he has been detained for 26 days and counting. To this day, the government has cited no basis in law for Abrego Garcia's warrantless arrest, his removal to El Salvador, or his continued confinement in the Salvadoran prison. Nor could it. The government remains bound by an immigration judge's 2019 order expressly prohibiting Abrego Garcia's removal to El Salvador because he faced a clear probability of future persecution by gang members, actual gang members there, and demonstrated that El Salvador's authorities were and would be unable or unwilling to protect him. Instead of hastening to correct its egregious error, the government dismissed it as an oversight. The only argument the government offers in support of its request, the United States courts cannot grant relief once a deportee crosses the border, is plainly wrong. The government's argument, moreover, implies that it could deport and incarcerate any person, including U.S. citizens, without legal consequence, so long as it does so before a court can intervene. That view refutes itself, because every factor governing requests for equitable relief manifestly weighs against the government. I would have declined to intervene in this litigation and denied the application in full. Nevertheless, I agree with the court order that the proper remedy is to provide Abrego Garcia with all the process to which he would have been entitled had he not been unlawfully removed to El Salvador. That means that they must give him due process. That's what this means. I'm going to tell you, give him due process. If he comes back and you give him due process before a court and you can prove that he's a fucking gang member, then deport him. But you can't prove it. And almost 75% of these people, they couldn't prove in court that they were gang members. Oh, so let's just not take them to court then. Just bypass. And that is what they're doing. And they plan on doing it to regular American citizens. They'll say they're gang members. They'll say they're wildly violent criminals. Anything they say as they're spinning and propagating lies as we speak about this bullshit. They're lying. They want to set the stage to deport citizens too. Trump says he'd love that. People, it's time to go and arrest him. He needs to be arrested and removed Get his fat ass from behind the Resolute desk now.